Near mint condition, the home of collected editions. Oh my gosh, look at that panel of Batman. You have the absolute, you have the deluxe. DC Comics firing on all cylinders. The fastest man alive is back with another omnibus. I am the Uncanny Omar. You're watching Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. Today I'm going to give you my overview of The Flash, the Road to Rebirth Omnibus. I'm going to talk about what exactly is collected in here and where it takes place in the reading order of The Flash. So, please, join me. Here we have the latest Scarlet Speedster Omnibus. This is the Road to Rebirth, and we have it covered here by Brett Booth, the DC Bullet logo, Van Jensen, Robert Venditti, Brett Booth, and Norm Rapmund, making the top billing there, and their names are also here. The Flash Road to Rebirth Omnibus, the DC logo. Run, Barry, run, and that's what he does best. The retail price of the book, $125, and a little bit about what the stories are in here. It's another Brett Booth piece. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that this is really the Flash New 52 Omnibus Volume 2. So let's go ahead and put it on the shelf. And it goes right after the Francis Manapul and Brian Buccellato run, and right before the Rebirth Omnibus. So yes, this is truly the Road to Rebirth. Now, this has been collected before in a series of trade paperbacks, and I will say that this is mapped different, and they also included a couple of other things that were not in the trade paperbacks, but I'll get to that here in a little bit. Taking the dust jacket off, and the flaps, with an image by Brett Booth, and then this is a wraparound image. Another image of Professor Zoom, perhaps. And that spine. And then who in the world is this Flash? Why is he blue? Thought he was a Scarlet Speedster. Oh, how things are going to change during this era. So let's go ahead and open it up and talk about this era, showing off the artwork, giving you the pitch of the storylines in here, and then, of course, looking at the extras and build of this omnibus. Okay, let's go ahead and get this book open. One thing I didn't note is these mysterious images. Who are they? Well, that would become really important later on, just like this image will. So there are the two Flashes, and we'll talk a little bit more about who they are here in a second, because I don't want to go ahead and jump even into minor spoilers. This is your credit page. Van Jensen, Robert Venditti, but you also have some of the Brian Buccellato stories that are collected in here. As a matter of fact, this last one's Nicole Dubik and Christos Gage doing a one-off, and of course Geoff Johns with the final story in here. Your main artists are going to be Brett Booth and Norm Rapmund, as well as Gary Frank and Ron Friends, Alejandro Garcia, or Ale Garza, Ivan Hayes, Paul Pelletier, Scott Hanna, and Jesus Merino, just to name a few of the artists that worked on this book. And then over here are your colors like Andrew Dahlhaus and Brad Anderson and others. Lettering by Pat Brosseau, Sal Cipriano, Taylor Esposito, and others. And your table of contents right here, and where you're going to find each and every one of these stories, and there are page numbers. And we kick it off. By the way, one thing that I do love that they do is they tell you the date when these originally came out. Not just the name of the actual story, but the dates that they came out. And I'm sure you probably noticed, why are they starting with January 2015 if the rest of the stories are going from 2013 into 2014? That's because that story right there, Secret Origins number 7, called The Chase, is a great way to kick this off, because it's pretty much giving you a quick recap as to what's happened in the life of the Flash and who he is during this time. Collected in here is the Flash 25 through 52. That is the series from 2011. The Flash Annuals 2 through 4. Secret Origins number 7. The Flash Futures End #1, and then DC Universe Rebirth #1, and retails for $125. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the spoiler tag in case, I'm just going to go over minor spoilers about some of the stories in here, not going too much into the big surprises that happen. The first story in here, The Secret Origins, is really retelling the origin of the Flash. This time around in the New 52, it is Barry Allen. There are a few things I need to mention because during this time when the New 52 was starting, there was no Wally West. There will be, but I'll talk about that here when we go through the book. And Barry Allen was the one and only Flash, the fastest man alive. But is that truly a thing? Is he really the fastest man alive? The next issue we have in here is the Green Lantern story. This is from annual #2. This is showcasing the first meeting between Green Lantern Hal Jordan and Barry Allen Flash. Little Brave and the Bold here. This is how we see them rescue a bunch of missing children that were abducted by aliens, and then having to defeat the same aliens in present day. But it shows you their relationship and how they work together. It's a little backup story, reintroducing some of the characters from the police force in here, and then we get into what is a one and done story. This is just one issue with Christos Gage that has him asking that very question: is he truly the fastest man alive? And this artwork's by Neil Goosh. I really like this art too. It's very cartoony. It kind of fits the character. And we have this character of Spitfire that has killed someone that he is close to. Patrick Searcher helps Brian Buccellato tell his story with this right here that focuses on somebody, this serial killer known as the Keystone Killer. And the Keystone Killer has connections to perhaps Barry Allen and his friends, and there's this whole rivalry here between the Sutters and the Fletchers, and how it's all connected to Fry. These are all characters from the Central City Police Department, so you have characters like David Singh, you have characters like James Forrest, you have Daryl Fry, and during this time, another character that hasn't really been a love interest to Barry Allen, but will be making an appearance a little bit later, is Iris West. But his love interest is somebody that actually works for the Central City Police Department, and that is a lady named Patty Spivot. Now, Barry is, of course, working for the police department. He's not really a police officer. He works in the science department. Now, this is when Van Jensen and Robert Venditti kick off their story. And this is Lost in Time, as they call it. And it is a story about Barry Allen, and like I said, dating this lady named Patty, who he works with, and seeing a psychiatrist here. And jumping 20 years into the future, when we see Barry Allen with this costume. So that is Barry Allen that we saw. I'm sorry, it was in the back here. That we saw back here. And it is him freaking out about the Speed Force and what it could change. So there's something crucial that happens in present day that future Barry believes he needs to go back and change. We are introduced to the New 52's Wally West, who is still around, by the way. This is Wally West, Iris West's nephew, and this is the character that you'll see in the Teen Titans, especially the Rebirth era of the Teen Titans, and become Kid Flash. Now it gets a little bit confusing because if you've been reading comics for a while, wait a second, what happened to the Ginger? What happened to Wally West? That Wally West did not exist in the New 52. That was one of the big things that they decided to change in the New 52, was actually bring back some of the things towards the end, which caused the whole ripple effect and became Rebirth. Now, this storyline is all about the Speed Force breaking. You have the future Flash that is mourning the death of somebody very important to him and deciding to go back in time. Again, so you'll see the countdown, like this is 15 years from now, it started 20 years from now. You'll see him face off against some of his rogue gallery. While you have present day Barry Allen not knowing anything about this future Flash that is coming back. So it's about the Speed Force and how it's broken and how this future Flash wants to fix it. And he thinks he can fix it by stopping this one horrible thing that happened in his life. And then you have present-day Flash trying to solve a murder mystery, which involves a lot of his rogues. Now, once they clash, there is a little bit of a disturbance in the Speed Force. Something ends up happening to Barry Allen, our present-day Barry Allen, that he gets sent back to another time. And this is when the future Barry Allen takes over being the Flash in Central City. So he is there helping out the police force, but he does things his own way because he knows that something needs to change. Something needs to happen. He needs to keep something from happening that involves people that he cares about. But he goes over the top and he goes nuts. In the past, Barry Allen, our present-day Barry Allen, now stuck in the past, gets to meet this character. What is his name? William? I think it's William Selkirk, who is obsessed with the Speed Force. Anyway, that's what this is about, and we are introduced to some other new characters for the Rogue Gallery and reinventions of the Rogue Gallery through here, because that happens from time to time. Brett Booth now being the main artist and reinventing everyone. Now, once that storyline is done, you think, okay, we're done with speedsters. Let's go back to like some regular bad guys. Let's go back to some of this mystery that we're still trying to solve, because during this time, Barry's father is in prison. So Henry is in prison because they think that he is responsible for killing Barry's mom. So during this time, she's dead, and Barry's dad, Henry, is in prison because he was found guilty. But that's not the case. So this whole volume is all about trying to figure out who really killed his mom. Now, the next story arc will set up this big character that has appeared if you've read previous incarnations of the Flash, but this is his first time appearing through here. This is Professor Zoom. I know with speedsters, especially when they look the same, they tend to look very similar and have the same type of name. But Professor Zoom is a lot different than Reverse Flash. I don't want to give away spoilers, but he's a different character. And this is where he ends up recruiting his own team of speedsters, or villains, rather. So you have this character of Professor Zoom that has been planning to destroy Barry Allen Flash for 1,000 years, just traveling through different times. And he starts recruiting his own team. So it's like the Zoom team. You have H-Block, I think is his name, Roscoe, Folded Man, and Magalai. And together they end up breaking Henry Allen out of prison. So this all has actual ties to Barry Allen, but why break out Henry Allen? What has that got to do with this new Professor Zoom? Again, different character than the Reverse Flash, even than the New 52, because that was Daniel. So that's all I will say about that particular story. There's a big fight, of course, with Barry Allen and Professor Zoom, and Brett Booth ends up leaving the book, and we have the finale here, which focuses a lot on Wally West, which is good, because it kind of sets up the character that he will become in the pages of the Teen Titans. But Flash is now being suspected by the police force as a superhero that cannot control his powers, that he's a bit of a loose cannon. So what the police force decides to do is recruit the rogues to go and capture the Flash. So you've got characters in here like the Trickster, you've got characters in here like Mirror Master, and they're all out there working for the police force as good guys and arresting Barry Allen. It's kind of a little bit of a twist, but by now also Robert Venditti has left the book. It is mainly just Van Jensen writing the stories in here. Once that storyline ends, the last book that's collected in here is the Rebirth one-shot, which is the return of a classic character. By the way, another spoiler here, in case you haven't read Rebirth, but this sets up the return of the classic Wally West, the one I was talking about. Not the New 52 Wally West. He will also stay. So it might be a little bit confusing, right? Because there's two Wally Wests. Hey, people have the same name all the time in real life, but real life doesn't have speedsters. But anyway, doesn't matter. Now there are two Wally Wests running around. Ha! No pun intended. But this whole story is, oh my god, I loved it. I loved the Rebirth one-shot because it was all about remembering the past, the things that we have lost, and what made these characters work. It might spoil some of the stories that have happened with New 52 characters, like a big plot point for Superman. If you haven't read the New 52 Superman or how it ends, it will spoil that. And of course, it leads into a big event that will happen in the pages of Batman and the Flash Rebirth, which is called The Button. Now, let's get to the extras here, because we have a lot of extras. We have the Flash Annual 2 cover, and we've got original art and layouts. And here is the sketches, to the pencils, to the inks from Brett Booth for the Flash 36. So these are covers. And I really do enjoy his designs. I'm a big fan of Brett Booth. I was hoping that he would have an ongoing series when the X-Men were relaunched. And some of the Zoom characters right here. So it's not H-Block, it's just Block. Dang it, I thought it was H-Block for some reason. Roscoe Dillon, Napalm, and then some of the sketches and designs and the DC Rebirth cover. And variant covers here for the different printings. And your end sheets, which is a really powerful end sheet. As far as the binding of the book, it is sewn binding. And it's got a pretty tight eye, though. I have stretched that spine. I do love the character of Iris showing up there with her nephew. I like Brett Booth's design. But there is a little bit of bleed through happening because, again, this paper stock they're using is still glossy, but not as thick as it used to be. And because of the eye, and you saw just how tight it was, there is a little bit of gutter loss. Let me actually get to the back here with the cover to the Rebirth #1. So you can see there's just a little bit of a gutter loss happening there. But that is it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code Near Mint Condition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. That was the content and page count and build of this omnibus and where it goes into the reading order of The Flash. If you have any more questions, please leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button on the way out. Check us out on Spreadshop and Patreon. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.